Hello and welcome. Thanks for tuning into the Disembodied Screams podcast. Those returning, thank you. Those new to this podcast, welcome. Now let's get started with 1990s album covers by Iron Maiden. Least horrific to most horrific. Probably don't need to do my scale because I'm not going to rate these. But I'm going to do the four from the 1990s. There are four studio albums from the 1990s. Maybe in the future, if these episodes are kind of popular, or I deem they're popular for me, I'll cover their live albums, and I'll cover maybe their singles covers as well. Iron Maiden's got a lot of great horror within their album covers. Not as much horror in their music. There's a little bit here and there spattered about, but their album covers always pop with a lot of horror. But not the number 4 in this list. From the 1990s, which is arguably, I think, maybe their best album from the 1990s. Yeah, y'all might throw a few shoes at me or bottles for saying that, but I think this one that's on the screen, those who can see it, know what it is. The X Factor with Blaze Bayley was the shot in the arm they needed in the 1990s. I think by the time they got to No Prayer and Fear of the Dark, I think Bruce and them were running on steam. And this is a nice shot in the arm with the X Factor. There's a lot of amazing tunes on this album. But this Eddie is one of their least horrific looking Eddies. Sure, what he's going through looks kind of horrific, with the machines going into him and pulling his brain apart. And he's like, just his torso is there again, sort of like Seventh Son, but almost looks more like a computer generated version, I guess, maybe, or more like a practical effect version, something like that. It's definitely not animated. I'm not sure how they achieved this one. Maybe claymation could be another way they did it, but the Eddie looks kind of grotesque with his mouth and the way it is and his eyes and everything. But overall, the X Factor is not a very horrific looking album cover. There's not really much horror even in the color. It's a lot of steels and grays and blacks that don't really pop with horror. It looks a very industrial look to a very machine look for the X Factor. So I'm putting the X Factor at number 4, arguably their best album, but definitely their least horrific from the 1990s. And this time I'm going off Wikipedia. So last time I tried to use Apple Music and they animate all their little album covers, which is really cool, but it's kind of hard to do this when you want to study the album a little closer and talk about it. Moving on to number 3 in this list, this very short list, Virtual XI, maybe their worst album in the 90s, maybe their worst album all time. I mean, arguably so. So they went probably from maybe their best album in the 90s to one of their worst albums, not only in the 90s, but throughout. That's kind of wild to think about. Album cover, though, you dive into this album cover a little closer. It's giving the other two in this list a good run for its money. Actually, some of the stronger horror album covers in Iron Maiden's career, Virtual XI is kind of giving them a run for their money. I don't think it's quite up to maybe top 10, but it's easily in the top 15. But how many albums does that Iron Maiden have? I can't remember. It's up there. It's pretty good. Maybe it is in the top 10. I'd have to look at it. I'm not sure how many albums they have. 18, 19, something like that. Anyways, Virtual XI album cover. First off, the Eddie looks great. His face looks very demonic, very scary, very creepy. You got the red eyeballs. There's tons of reds and blacks behind this Eddie, almost like a cape or a blood spill or a cloud of nuclear waste washing over the land. Been watching Fallout, so that's probably why nuclear waste is in my head. And I think there's even like some burning cities and stuff within this red cloud and everything. So kudos to bringing that horror image about. Like I said, this would be a very high up horror album for Iron Maiden, I think. The little dude or person sitting there on the corner is not very horrific looking, but apparently Eddie's about to control him or her like he controlled the devil. So it's a pretty good looking horrific album cover, and I might eventually dive into the entire discography and line those up as well. Could be kind of fun to do that. So this is number 3 on the list. It's Virtual XI. And if you can't see these, again, if you're in a safe spot someplace, you can stop and look and listen and watch, because this will be on Spotify and YouTube. Do it and follow along with the album covers, on your phone, on a tablet, computer, wherever. So let's move on to the next one in this list, hopping back over. And I'm going to have to go with Wikipedia is also weird. I'm not sure who did their albums for Iron Maiden for this thing, but they're in kind of weird order. Usually they go like they're kind of going in a descending order instead of an ascending order, something like that I'm used to. So it's a little weird, but let's go with number 2 in this list, which arguably could be their best album in the 90s as well, I think. I think this gives the X Factor in the 90s a strong run. Because there's some really top-notch songs on this one. But this cover is pretty horrific. This is another one that lands solidly in their top 10 all-time, maybe even top 5. I mean, give me Live After Death vibes, which I love. Live After Death is one of my favorite covers by him. But you got the Eddie coming out of the grave, and apparently there was looks like a grave robber that was about to invade this grave, and you don't invade Eddie's grave if you're a grave robber. No good. And Eddie looks great. He's back to that zombified Eddie that I really like from Killers and their first album. He looks just like that in a lot of ways. And it's funny, I think No Prayer for the Dying has a lot of vibe towards those two albums. It's like they were kind of going back to the start, to restart in the 90s after they had that big epic run through the 80s. But yeah, this one here, and there's some blues, there's some reds, there's some yellows, and Eddie, like I said, Eddie just looks like a corpse coming out of that grave, ripping open the earth. So I would say this is number 2 on the list for the 1990s Iron Maiden album covers. And if you've been following along closely, you're watching along closely, whatever, I'm going to go with one of their most horrific Eddies of all time. And in fact, if I do an all-time list of all their album covers, this one might be number 1. It might be number 2. I mean, it's easily in the top 3, I would say, because this Eddie is truly, truly horrific through and through. I mean, he's got the, I'm going to pull my tablet up a little closer to look at this one. But I mean, this Eddie's got this just evil, demonic face to him. He's got tree limbs, look like hair coming out of his head. He's got these gigantic hands that look like something from Pumpkinhead. He looks a little bit like Pumpkinhead, actually. He's coming out of this tree. There's a full moon in the background. There's a blue sky in the background. This is the kind of Eddie, you're walking through the forest in the middle of the night. You don't want to look up and see this in the tree. I'm telling you right now, this would freak you out. Arguably their worst album in the 90s. Virtual XI and Fear the Dark probably are competing for the worst in the 90s, but I think what would give this one the bump is there's better songs on this one than Virtual XI, and Bruce is on this one. So Bruce versus Blaze, I'm going to go with Bruce every day of the week. But Fear the Dark is number 1 on this list of the 4 albums from the 1990s. And eventually, like I said, I might dive into singles. I know singles like the Trooper single, it looks really, really awesome. So if you've enjoyed that, hope you did. Thanks for listening this far. Thanks for watching this far. Let me drop back here and close out this episode. Those are my 4 albums. If you haven't seen my first list from the 1980s, check it out here. I'll pop it on the screen somewhere. If you're on the podcast, it's there somewhere within the episodes. If you're on the YouTube channel and you're not watching, you don't want to click on the screen right now, then there's a playlist for all my Disembodied Screams episodes, and I might put these into a ranking category as well. I think I've got my Star Wars movies ranked too, and I'm going to rank some movies and other stuff later on too, maybe. So I'm rambling. Wherever you are, find a way to give this podcast some love. Rate it, review it, like it, share it, leave comments, whatever. Leave me your rating below for the 1990s album covers. Am I crazy for picking these 4 in these positions? Let me know that too. And what is your favorite from the 1990s? I'd like to know that too. Do you agree Blaze was the right step just to kind of get him through the 90s or not? I'd like to know that too. All right, and that's it. Have a good one.